On Friday the 2nd of October 2020, the 007 producers announced that the latest James Bond film, No Time to Die, will be delayed for a fourth time to 2021. The official James Bond Twitter feed read, quote, MGM, Universal and Bond producers Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli today announced the release of No Time to Die, the 25th film in the James Bond series, will be delayed until 2nd of April 2021 in order to be seen by a worldwide theatrical audience. We understand the delay will be disappointing to our fans, but we now look forward to sharing No Time to Die next year. End quote. Sadly, the effects of this delay were immediate and tragic. The Sunday papers were quick to report that as a direct result that the Cineworld cinema chains may shut all 128 of its UK-based cinemas, putting roughly 5,500 jobs at risk. Whilst the news came as no surprise, it was shocking to see that the affected staff were finding out via social media networks or news as opposed to being told via internal messaging. To quote the Cineworld Action Groups, an action group formed of and ran by Cineworld and Picture House employees around the United Kingdom, tweet, quote, the front page of tomorrow's Times is announcing that Cineworld is planning to close all of its cinemas across the country as soon as this week, putting all of our jobs at immediate risk. There has been no consultation with the staff whatsoever. End quote. However, when Monday the 5th of October came, a bad situation quickly became worse. Cineworld stock, which had been at 220 pence before the pandemic, fell as low as 17 pence a share and shows no signs of recovering in the short, medium or long term. Now, what passes for good news is that, at time of recording, the closure is being described as a temporary suspension. However, instead of simply closing its 127 Cineworld and Picture House cinemas in the United Kingdom, their chain's 536 cinemas in the United States will also be closed, with no mention of when or if the chain would reopen. Under cover of this, rival chain Odeon allegedly sent out this email. Now, I say allegedly because I have trouble believing this nationally sent email was okayed by anyone in a position of authority after probably being typed by someone on work experience with one eye on the pub. The mail allegedly reads, in light of the ongoing delays to the release of many new films, from 9th of October we will temporarily reducing the opening hours of Odeon, name of venue, and will now be open from Friday to Sunday. The Mail adds that, we look forward to reopening full-time when the big blockbusters return, but in the meantime we promise to bring you a great choice of big-screen films to enjoy at weekends. We don't know how many of its sites are currently affected and we'll bring you more when we have it. Don't be surprised if it's all of them though, official word when we get it. End quote. This strikes me as a pretty good compromise. Instead of running empty or near empty screenings during the week, cinemas are run during peak times showing classic films, which would hopefully allow staff to qualify for furlough payments and for the chain to hopefully turn something approaching a profit. As to why cinemas are taking this drastic action, the answer is simple. They simply don't have anything new to show. After being effectively forced to reopen for Christopher Nolan's incomprehensible mess Tenet, cinemas have effectively been treading water with screenings of the Rocky, Hunger Games and Star Wars franchises amongst others, whilst waiting for James Bond to be released, allowing them to start tempting people back to cinemas with a strong, recognisable brand, which will then hopefully tempt other medium to large budgeted films to come back to the silver screen. Sadly though, the Tenet experiment failed. It allegedly cost $400 million in production and marketing and therefore needed to gross $800 million in global box office just to break even. 2 months after release, it's barely at $250 million. Then Mulan went straight to Disney Plus DLC where it deservedly died a death, but its removal from cinematic rotation deprived cinemas of one of the most hyped films of the year and set a dangerous precedent for films like Black Widow and The Immortals, which I can still fully see getting the same treatment irrespective of what the mouse is saying. Unnoticed by almost everyone, the latest Gerard Butler film, Greenland, went straight to video on demand, depriving cinemas of the type of average action film that it's still going to need if it doesn't want to be stuck with nothing but awards bait and super blockbusters in the near future. But Bond was the key. One of the most well-known brands in cinematic history, a practical license to print money. It was going to come out in November after 2 months of drought. When Bond performed well, then Wonder Woman would follow a month later, as well as Death on the Nile for families to watch on Boxing Day. Bond would enjoy at least a month of uninterrupted money as opposed to the week or two he would have gotten in normal times. Sadly though, it was not to be. Bond has been pushed back to April 2021, forcing Fast and Furious 9 to move to May in a bid to avoid clashing, and faced with another month of drought, cinemas have performed triage, which has forced a self-fulfilling prophecy upon cinemas. Closed cinemas don't show films. This forces films to be pushed back because, well, who wants to be the first? The first big budgeted film to come out, whenever that may be, will most likely struggle to make its money back and nobody wants to be the first one out of the gate, do they? Although the new Ryan Reynolds film, Free Guy, is allegedly coming to cinemas on December 11th, which I don't personally believe for a second, but at this point I'll take what I can get. Although I don't see Cineworld firing up the projectors simply to watch Ryan Reynolds do the same tired thing he's been doing ever since he realised he can make all the money in the world by simply playing slight tweaks on Deadpool for the rest of his career. And even if Free Guy only opens in the States, in what cinemas and in what cities, I simply do not know, within 24 hours it'll be online, and any country which states it's going to be released in January, February or March will be forced to have a much, much smaller box office. Because there are people who genuinely wonder if this is the end of cinemas as we know it, and I genuinely hope that they are wrong, but who knows what's going to happen by next week, let alone several months from now, because cinemas are hanging on by their fingertips. Thousands of innocent people are about to become unemployed because films are being pushed back, and because people aren't going to the cinema because there aren't any new films to see. Do you see how there's almost like a kind of a circle problem here? Because James Bond might not have killed the silver screen, but he's certainly put it into a coma. Until we can get people to trust that going to the cinema is a safe thing to do, with films that people are interested in seeing in enough numbers to help cinemas make a consistent profit, because they simply can't afford to open again. Because they simply can't afford to be forced open again for one film. Cinemas might have been able to cope with it once, but twice will kill cinemas. And look, cinemas needed to close. Hoping and praying for one film, then another and another is not sustainable. Instead, we need actually fixed, locked down release schedules for cinemas to be able to reopen in a sustainable way. As for the thousands of staff, they need to be placed on furlough. Nobody should be at risk of losing the roof over their heads because nobody went to see Cats and Dogs 3 Paws Unite. For the people who work in cinemas, I hope that we can get a hand on things soon. That your governments do their damn jobs and take care of you, as well as ensuring that the public feels safe enough by Christmas to go and see Wonder Woman 84, Death on the Nile and Free Guy. I want cinemas open, but it has to be in the right way. Not desperately holding out for a hero in a tuxedo. What do you guys think? What would tempt you back to the silver screen? And have you been to see any of these classic re-releases? Comment below, let me know. I'm Daniel. It's been a dunking. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe.